let's jump right into this. David and Goliath, the battle that changed absolutely everything. Today, we're diving into this classic source material from Kingdom Fitness, and we're not just looking at it as some ancient history lesson. No, we're unpacking it as a literal blueprint for overcoming impossible odds. So let's get into it.
Let me ask you something right off the bat. Have you ever felt just completely too small for the challenge right in front of you? I mean, we all have, right? Whether it's a massive hurdle at work, a really daunting personal goal, or a sudden crisis that totally flips your world upside down. That sinking feeling of being hopelessly outmatched, it's completely universal. And the source text actually anchors its entire message right there, on that very real, very human feeling. It uses this ancient clash to show us exactly what happens when that feeling of being too small collides head-on with a monumental threat. Okay, let's look at this massive problem. On one side, we have Goliath. And this guy didn't just intimidate people, he actively terrified an entire army, literally mocking them every single day. The psychological weight of that is just staggering. And on the flip side, you've got an entire army of trained, battle-hardened men who are completely paralyzed by fear. Their internal narrative had just totally collapsed. It felt entirely too small. As the source points out, no one, absolutely no one was brave enough to step up and fight him. This is exactly what paralyzing fear looks like. You've got this huge giant, relentless daily mockery, and the defenders are just completely frozen in their tracks.
And then, right into this atmosphere of total dread, came David. Now, I want to pause here for a second, because the context the source gives us is just so crucial. David was not some legendary, decorated soldier. He wasn't a special forces operative brought in to save the day. The text makes it crystal clear he was just a young shepherd. In fact, he was literally only there to drop off some food for his older brothers. He stepped onto this terrifying battlefield just running an everyday errand. But, as we'll see, his reaction to this giant totally changes the course of everything.
You know, it really all comes down to the incredible power of perspective. The public consensus instantly placed limits on David. They looked at him and said he was simply too young and way too weak, judging him entirely on his physical appearance. But David, he completely rejected that. While everyone else was staring at an unstoppable giant, he reframed this paralyzing threat into a monumental opportunity to trust God. He flat out refused to accept the public's perception of his limitations.
And this brings up a brilliant point about authenticity when you're facing a massive challenge. So King Saul, the leader of the army, tries to help out by giving David his own royal armor. I mean, it's the conventional way to fight, right? But the text tells us it just didn't fit David. So he took it off. He absolutely refused to be squeezed into someone else's mold. Instead, he grabbed his own authentic arsenal. He went with the things he actually knew best: his shepherd's staff, his sling, and 5 smooth stones. He chose simple, faithful tools over ill-fitting, conventional expectations.
Now, what's really fascinating here is the hidden preparation. Seriously, how on earth could a shepherd with a tiny sling be ready to take down a giant? Well, long before anyone ever knew his name, David was out there fighting private battles. The source actually tells us he had already been fighting off lions and bears while protecting his sheep. In those quiet, unseen, everyday moments, he was building incredible discipline. And because he was faithful in those terrifying, completely hidden moments against wild animals, he was fully equipped to step onto the public stage, face Goliath, see the giant fall, and secure the victory. That huge public win, it was entirely built on a rock-solid foundation of private discipline.
So when it was finally time to step out into that valley and look the giant in the eye, David made a very deliberate choice about where to place his confidence. He actively stripped away any reliance on physical, worldly advantages. He didn't trust his size, and he sure didn't trust his own physical strength. I mean, he already knew the world thought he was way too young and weak anyway. Instead, he brought a completely different metric to the battlefield: absolute, unshakable trust in God.
And that deep trust culminated in an absolute declaration of faith. Right before the physical fight even happened, David declared, "The battle belongs to the Lord." This right here is the emotional and spiritual climax of the entire source text. He wasn't standing there calculating the odds based on height, weight, or military experience. He surrendered the outcome entirely to his faith, which effectively took the crushing weight of those impossible odds completely off of his own shoulders.
Just one. According to the text, it took only 1 smooth stone. David struck Goliath on the forehead and the giant fell. Think about that for a second. All of that daily mockery, all of that paralyzing fear that had gripped an entire army for weeks, it all ended in an instant with a single stone from a shepherd's sling. Israel won the victory simply because one young man chose to step forward with his unique tools and his unwavering trust.
So what does this all mean for us? I want to pivot directly to you and the core takeaways from this explainer. The lesson here is simple, but it is absolutely profound. Your biggest obstacle might look completely impossible, but it is not bigger than God. Whatever giant is standing in front of you right now, mocking you, making you feel small, it is entirely surmountable. The text is urging us to stop measuring our obstacles against our own perceived weaknesses and to start measuring them against something much, much greater.
Because at the end of the day, the crucial point is this: the discipline you build in private prepares you for the victories everyone will see in public. Never, ever underestimate the value of your quiet, unnoticed hard work. You know, the studying late at night, the daily grind, those small ethical choices you make when literally no one is watching. Those are your lions and bears. You are building the muscle memory and the discipline right now that you are absolutely going to need when your giant finally steps onto the field.
This whole story builds into a highly actionable blueprint for your own life. First up, don't let fear stop you. The entire army was frozen, but David moved. Second, ignore the limits. Refuse to accept other people's boundaries or wear the ill-fitting armor of their expectations. And third, stay faithful in the small things. Master your hidden responsibilities, protect the sheep, fight the bears, deliver the food, and you will be fully equipped for the massive challenges ahead.
Ultimately, giants don't decide your future. Your faith, your courage, and your discipline do. Yes, the obstacles in your path might be loud and intimidating, but I promise you, they do not have the final say. You are already equipped with your own unique tools. So, as you look at that seemingly impossible obstacle standing in your way today, what hidden discipline are you building right now to ensure that giant falls?